and welcome to No Such Thing as a Bad Movie podcast. I am April Edmansky, and I'm here today with
Justin DeClue
and Colin Cunningham.
And this is now week 3 of the quarantine.
I think so,
Yep.
yeah.
It is week 3 and probably another 3 months left to go.
Yeah, I apologize. Last episode I said by April 1st, I thought things were going to start opening again. And that was wrong. I was so very wrong.
It was an April Fool's joke, and you got us, April. Actually, I think in the episode I was like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
you
that was too soon.
Yeah, how are you guys holding up?
I'm good. I just went outside today for a brief moment, and these streets are packed with people. It's
Really?
crazy.
I don't know what's going on. So this is why I have not left my house except for emergency groceries.
It's so weird. Yeah, I mean, we've been out, I think, twice probably in the past.
In the whole 3 weeks.
The whole time, and it's been really quiet outside.
Yeah, you guys are downtown, though, so it's not like people getting out of their apartment buildings and letting their kids just slobber all over each other.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, I hear the parks are full, although I just haven't even really been out because I'm afraid to go outside now.
What's going to happen when you look out your window and you see somebody being murdered in the apartment across from you?
I'll just do nothing.
As I'm sitting in my wheelchair with my binoculars.
Rings under your eyes.
Oh, there's someone being murdered across from the...
I mean, no one can see it, but Colin has shoulder-length hair while we're recording this.
I know, it's like everyone's hair is going to get so long. We're all going to be coming out like we just got out of some bunker from the 1950s.
We're all going to have Jumanji beards.
Yeah, what's funny
What year is it?
This is really affecting men because women's hair is already long, so it's not noticeable when it grows an extra, couple inches. But with a man, it's like, whoa, you look totally different.
I'm gonna be,
maybe it's going to bring in some new fashions. Ponytails and mullets.
We're going to bring back glam rock. We're going to start listening to
that's
Poison and stuff like that.
Hey, speaking of rock, what movie did we watch this week, April?
Something that rocks. It was one that we have talked about before, but not at length. It was John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars.
Now, I said I would never do this movie again. I don't know what came over me. Justin,
I just got a message at 3 a.m. in the morning that was Colin going we're watching Ghosts of Mars, man. You can't stop us. We're buckled in.
We can't turn back now.
What prompted the watching of it?
I don't know. I think I was just postponing because it was my turn to pick. And
he was going to pick Veronica.
I was procrastinating, but I was going to pick Veronica, and then I'm like, what if it just sucks and there's nothing really to talk about?
One of the rare times that I said, I don't want to watch that movie.
Yeah, you bowed out very wisely.
Yeah, and as our listeners will find out, next week's Patreon is Veronica without Justin.
Yikes. Yeah, so I don't know why. I think I was just putting it off, and I just said, what the hell? Let's just do Ghosts of Mars. And then we looked at iTunes, and it was $4.99 to rent and $4.99 to buy.
Did we buy it?
No, I just rented it because I didn't want it in my library.
Oh,
Really? Okay.
But I don't know. I may have changed my mind after watching it.
Yeah, I got a email afterwards. I say email. Just Colin wrote a long letter of
Worded.
apology being
Dearest
you know
Justin.
what? Ghost of Mars? Maybe John Carpenter's best film?
I did not say that.
well, we talked a little bit about it on our Escape from LA episode. As I've been told, it's often been referred to as John Carpenter's worst film. And after seeing it, it's really not. I'm not going to say it's a good movie, but it's not that bad.
It isn't as bad as I remember it, and this was the first time I've seen it since I watched it years ago.
Since it came out?
Not that. I watched it later on in my kind of John Carpenter fan phase, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't see it in the theater? You weren't all excited to go and I don't know, rock out with Marilyn Manson?
What was this, 2001?
Yeah.
Yeah, around there. I was shocked to see that his previous film to this was Escape from LA.
That's crazy. So what was that? That was 97, maybe?
Yeah, and then he didn't do another movie for 10 years.
Yeah, I think
Until
this is
the
the
Ward.
movie that he just retired after. He said, I'm not going to do another movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he came back to do The Ward, which I really, honestly don't remember anything from.
So we should start with, this movie was a big flop when it came out.
Yeah.
It cost $34 million. Oh,
God.
Which doesn't seem like that much, but when you watch the movie, sure seems like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't really see it on screen.
No, it's because they spent all the money on getting Ice Cube, man. They wanted that star power.
I mean, Ice Cube in this movie, I mean, I love him, but he looks sleepy and out of shape.
He does look sleepy.
Yeah, he's a little muted. It's like
Yeah.
he's on some cold medication or something.
And the big story goes that, like, this was supposed to be Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
Could you
this is-
imagine a version of this movie with the Snake Plissken character?
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
Well, I had no idea. I'd never heard that before. And then just like reading the IMDb trivia, it said, yeah, it was supposed to be the follow-up movie to Escape from LA, I guess.
so
and
this
then
would be Escape from Earth.
from Earth, I suppose.
I
but
guess.
yeah, Escape from LA just
Would it have
bombed.
been the same plot? I mean, April, start us off what the plot of this movie is. Or try to.
I have
and I
a
hope there's a
little-
lot of flashbacks in it.
Yeah,
in
I
your,
have a little
description.
trouble with the beginning of this movie because it's so front loaded with exposition. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
Ooh, I do love the title card. Society, matriarchal.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I didn't even understand. Colin had to explain it to me.
Well, they didn't. You missed it. You were in the kitchen,
Oh.
so you didn't see the text come up. But they really don't go into that much.
No, it's like hinted at here and there.
Yeah.
But it's not like it doesn't affect any decisions that people make.
No, not really. But it's John Carpenter being progressive, I guess, in 2001.
There you-
All right, so correct me if I'm wrong. We start off with our main character, Natasha Henstridge, being like talked to by like a board of directors about what happened on Mars. And then it goes into her story about what happens.
So immediately we're in a flashback.
Yes, that's the framing device.
What's amazing about this is that, like, it's confusing because we keep going back to it, like within flashbacks that people are telling within
Yeah.
the first flashback.
Yeah,
I think that
so-
at one point it goes 3 layers deep.
So immediately we start with a flashback of the train. She was on a train and it just sort of like drifts into town, which is like this main city on Mars. And then it cuts back to her telling her story to the council. So it's like we have a very brief flashback and then we're back
Yeah.
in the main story. And then we start into the actual flashback, which is most of the movie.
But the whole movie does that. It keeps going into people telling stories, and then you see it. And I haven't seen this many flashbacks within flashbacks since I read Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example. It's a very literary film.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay. Let me just try and set up the plot. So, Natasha Henstridge is a part of.
All right. We'll just call her Natasha because I feel like we're all going to strangle her
Yeah, and
name
I don't know
every
her-
time we try to say it.
whatever
The
her
star of
character-
Species,
whatever
Natasha
her-
Henstridge.
Yeah,
character's in it.
species herself.
So she's like a Mars police force person, and they're going to this area on Mars. We're never on Earth in this movie, are we?
No.
No,
Okay.
we're always on Mars.
All right. So she's going to this like prison to pick up Ice Cube.
I think it's on a mining colony
Yeah.
or something like
Yes. Desolation Jones.
So he is a criminal they need to bring somewhere else. And then when they get there, all of the guards and the miners are missing. And then they realize that they've all gone crazy. They've been possessed by some ghosts of Mars and they become like cannibals, kind of.
I like that when we throw to April doing a summary, she like sums up the entire film,
Yeah.
and then we go back beat by beat.
that. Beat by beat.
And talk about how wrong I am.
No,
No,
you
no,
just
no.
have to do the
You got
premise.
it.
Just the premise, the setup.
Yes. And so, like, when we're on this train, there's already a cavalcade of stars. You got Peter Jason, you got Keith Carradine.
Keith Carradine. Who's Peter Jason?
He is the conductor, like the white-haired guy.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
in
the older
all of
guy.
John Carpenter's movies.
That's
Yeah.
I
right.
believe he's the one in They Live who's like, they gave you a great package if you join them.
Yeah, I recognize him. Mm-hmm. I don't
He
know.
looks kind of
what-
like Tom Atkins without a mustache.
Yeah. And then you also have Clea Duvall, who was all over the place around this period of
Yeah,
time.
she had like she was never like the main character of a movie, but she was like a supporting character in like a ton of stuff.
Was she in Carnival at this point?
Yeah, I think she's most most people know her from Carnival, but then not everybody watched Carnival.
No.
So I don't know what she's most famous
The
for.
Faculty, which
Oh, yeah.
she was
Oh,
a
yeah.
very big part of.
No, I've still never seen that.
You've never seen The Faculty?
No.
Oh my God, I really want
It's
to watch
genuinely
that.
good. Maybe Robert Rodriguez's most fun film.
Okay.
I love The Faculty. It's great.
We were. I was actually going to work on that movie.
Were
we
you?
Bit out one of the scenes. I haven't seen the movie, but there's like a fish tank where they put some monster in a fish tank, and then it grows and like.
Yep, Jon Stewart's in that scene.
That's right.
Oh my
He gets his
God.
eye stabbed.
Oh, all right.
We also have Pam Grier, who's like the boss of this gang.
Returning-
I feel so bad for Pam Grier because I'm sure John Carpenter was like, listen, I did you a dirty on Escape from L.A., treated your character like crap. We didn't even get to see her die in Escape from L.A. This time, I'll treat you with respect.
Oh, and that's so not what happens. It's basically
No.
the same treatment. She dies off
Yes.
screen, right?
I think
Yeah, she
I can't
does.
even remember how she died in this movie. Oh wait, yeah, sorry, she's beheaded.
Yeah, she's beheaded.
But you don't see it.
No.
No, but she has a real cool duster that she wears the entire time.
Yeah, I noticed
And-
she's the only one that has that cool extra coat.
I think
Yeah.
maybe Clea Duvall has, but everybody else
No,
has like
no,
short.
hers is longer.
Oh really? Okay.
And I saved best for last, Jason Statham with hair, which is very important.
Oh my God. So this is him. This must have been after Snatch, obviously.
Yes, after Snatch.
But he's
He's
still-
bald in Snatch, though, isn't he?
Was he even in the Transporter by this point?
Yes. No, it wasn't. It was years later because it was Snatch, a movie called Turn It Up, Ghost of Mars, The One, Mean Machine, and then The Transporter.
Oh wow.
So this is definitely before he had any
Yeah.
kind of
he was not a star.
celebrity.
At this point.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
He has a lot
He's
of-
just a very horny man. That's his main characteristic in this
He
movie.
is so pervy in this movie. He constantly is just leering at Natasha Henstridge and like
And
propositioning her for sex.
and the breathing thing.
And so this is funny. I pointed this out to April. She didn't notice it, but as soon as I did, you can't not listen to it. And it's anytime Jason Statham, I guess this is why he's so nasally when he talks, kind of talks like this. But his mic is so hot that anytime he finishes a sentence, you can hear his mouth breathing.
I wonder why. Like, is it because like Jason Statham's like, "Oi, I'm giving you one, and then I'm off."
I don't know if he just breathes through his mouth, but listen for it. Anytime he finishes speaking, you hear a...
Maybe it's because, he was previously a professional, I think, swimmer or diver.
I think he was an Olympic diver.
Yeah, and so he's only breathes through his mouth for some reason. Maybe it makes him more agile.
No, he had his nostrils surgically sutured up, so he didn't have to wear nose plugs.
Maybe it had
Yeah.
something to do with like the respirators in the movie, and he was trying to like method act and be like,
Oh yeah, he's method. I mean, this is a movie filled with like really goofy details, like the fact that they wear goggles because
Yes.
the air pressure on Mars is too much.
Yeah,
But the goggles look silly. As I said,
They do look
they look
silly.
like a mix between like swimming goggles and like a laboratory goggles.
yeah, they're big and goofy. It's like something you'd wear if you're like sanding drywall or like something.
Maybe Jason Statham was like, "Oi, I need to wear my goggles."
My goggies.
The goggles do nothing.
So they make it to this mining colony. They get off their train, and we're introduced to a set right out of Babylon AD.
Yeah, it
which
looks
supposedly
like-
cost a lot of money too. That they had to paint this whole set.
Yeah, this is a big one. So it was, I guess, shot in a rock quarry. Mm-hmm. And
It's so ugly, and
Yeah,
we're there
it
for the
is.
whole movie.
yeah. Well, it's like basically like a Western town. Again, this is John Carpenter, so this is like High Noon or something, or some town that you'd see one of these things. But they had to spray paint the entire thing with like food dye or something.
It's probably like super toxic or something like that.
That's,
That's
why
why
I'm
Jason
breathing
Statham
through my
can't
mouth.
breathe. He's like,
Oh, these fumes are killing me.
yeah, but I'm a professional and I'm a tough guy. You see the hair?
I can't stand the smell. I gotta breathe out my mouth.
Yeah, maybe Natasha Henstridge just like was farting the entire time. And Jason Statham is like, he's like, please, Natasha, stop farting. And she's like, I'm the star of this movie. Have you seen Species?
Yeah.
That's my name above the title.
I haven't seen Species. So
It's not very good.
This is the only thing I've ever seen her in, and I did not like her in this movie. I'm sure she's a very nice woman, but I didn't think she was acting good. And she looks like a soccer mom. I'm sorry. I'm not getting like hot, scrappy mercenary from her. I'm getting suburban mom.
I don't know. She's pretty hot for a suburban mom.
I just don't see her acting like as
I
this
like
character.
that kind of suburban momness just because it's like a blue collar kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
she's not a superhero. She's not even a Snake Plissken. She's just somebody doing a job. And I can see what April's saying, that like all her lines are like very clipped with no emotion.
Yeah,
It's very
the entire
flat.
time.
I mean, she certainly doesn't have charisma, I would say.
It's just too laid back of a performance.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she has to be super over the top, but I got the feeling that the character didn't care. The
Yeah.
actress didn't care.
It's very
maybe.
one note. But then they do set it up that she's on drugs. She's a drug addict.
So maybe that's the excuse.
Yeah, you kind of see her on the train as they're going to this town in the intro, and then she kind of pops a pill, and everybody seems to know.
Yeah, like it's kind of like almost smoking weed that, some
Yeah.
people do it, some people don't. But I think the drug is called Clear, and when she takes it, like you just see waves crashing in front of her face.
Hey, I think that might be my favorite part of the movie, except for maybe the music, but we'll get to that.
With the drug trips.
I like that. Well, it only happens like twice.
It does.
but
we'll talk about the second one when we get to it. Well,
Yeah.
I'll start what my favorite part is, because it's just relevant as we're getting into this movie. And oh my God, it's the dissolves.
Holy
there are
shit.
so many dissolves in this movie.
Like, you can't even explain it to somebody.
No, there's scenes where they like walk across a room. There's a scene where they like see Ice Cube or
Yeah.
something, and
Yeah.
there's 3 dissolves.
It's so
Makes
weird.
no sense.
It's almost like they were trying to save time. It's like, let's shave a few seconds off here and then just do a dissolve. But it's like,
But the time
Yeah.
it takes to do that cross dissolve is adding more time.
yeah,
It
it's like
is.
you're walking 8 feet and you don't want to show them the entire way. So you
It's
just cross
almost
dissolve.
as if like, they put a few dissolves into it, and John Carpenter was like, "Oh, we need to add more, or it'll just feel weird."
Yeah, so it just
let's make it a theme of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. And it's like, at what point did they decide, okay, this is going to be like a stylistic thing that we're going to
Yeah.
go with for the entire movie? Because
We live within a dream.
It gets ridiculous.
I guess that's the idea, but you'll notice towards the end there aren't cross dissolves like the very
There are
end.
also like weird Star Wars wipes at some point.
Yes.
with a
That's right.
whooshing sound effect.
They're just like, at one point, like, we can't keep doing dissolves. It's like, what else do you got? And then they do like a little like horizontal wipe. Or,
Jason Statham got his own like diagonal cross dissolve when we go back and find out his part of the story.
Well, and right here we get I could pick 2 favorite things. Unless I'm stealing it from you guys, is the insane flashback structure of this movie.
Oh my God.
Like, they get to the Mars base, and I think Natasha's like, hey, save some hot water for me. And then they go off and do stuff, find some weird stuff, and then they meet other people, and they go, oh, this is what happened when we last saw you. And then you see her go, save some hot water for me again.
Yeah, we see the same things twice, and that happens when she's talking to Jason Statham over the comm. It's like they have a conversation, and then we see Natasha's what she does next, and then later we go back and they have the same conversation, and then we see what Jason Statham does next. It's like we didn't need to see that twice.
Or they just could
No.
have intercut it some way, you know what I mean? Like have parallel storylines going on, but every single time they meet somebody in this movie, that person has to stop and tell their backstory, and then we launch into a flashback.
And then we see
Okay,
it.
we're getting to the best flashback of the movie, because they find some survivors in this deserted camp.
Oh, that's right.
And one of them goes, well, I was in a weather balloon. And then it cuts
yeah.
to someone just flying in a weather balloon.
This is
And when that weather balloon crashes, there are 3 dissolves in that explosion.
That looked like the surfing or the flying scene from Escape from LA.
yeah, that's right. April just
It
looked
did.
at me and she's like, this is some Escape from LA level special effects here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of miniatures in the film, too. Like,
Yeah.
the train is a miniature.
I'm assuming,
That's
yeah,
fun.
the train is, which is actually pretty good until it blows up at the end, and I think the fire kind of gives away the scale. But
So they find these survivors, and it gets pretty fast into like, there's ghosts of Mars because something weird's going on.
yeah, so one of the survivors is Joanna Cassidy. She was Zora in Blade Runner that gets shot in the back by Harrison Ford.
Snake Lady.
The Snake Lady, the exotic
Right.
dancer.
Oh, she does not have much to do in this movie.
No. She kind of just plays a drunk, I guess.
She's not
Yeah.
well, yeah, she's drinking out of a flask at one point. She is kind of like an exposition person because she's like a scientist or an archaeologist, and she let out the ghosts of Mars.
Which we find out later.
Yes, we do. But first, I guess people are just wandering around in their own, universes, because we get another flashback of, I think, Jason Statham, and then, like, somebody else gets one. Sometimes there are flashbacks within flashbacks.
But we're already in a flashback at the beginning of the
Yep.
movie. So there's multiple levels of flashbacks within flashbacks.
Well, you know what? To be honest, the flashbacks didn't bother me as much as the cross dissolves bothered me.
Yeah.
I guess it's because I'm an editor, but it's just so hard. You have to like rearrange your brain because when we see it dissolve, we're used to it being a passage of time, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's not, it just becomes unsettling and annoying. And to this was like a Zucker Brothers movie that was making fun of cross dissolves. That was
Do
the
you
amount.
think it was a studio note? Like,
Add more?
John Carpenter gave his cut, and they're like, this is too slow. You got to figure out a way to speed this up.
I don't feel like it sped it up though.
But
No.
I feel like, if that was the case, then they would have just intercut parallel storylines
Mm-hmm.
instead of playing one out and then, hey, what were you doing the entire time I was doing that? Well, let me tell you. That seems to be wasting more time.
Save some hot water for me.
It's like they were
Parallel
trying
storylines
something.
don't add context to anything that's going on. It's just like more stuff.
Yeah, it's just very, very strange. So then Jason Statham, so Pam Grier's death, we find out that Jason Statham is like sort of chasing this person who's running away from town. And then we see him, that person carrying something. It's obviously Pam Grier's head, and he kind of like mounts it onto a pike. Mm-hmm. And then Jason Statham sort of follows this character and then comes across this group of people, this sort of like growing army of these people.
Which is like 10 feet away from where everybody else is. And they're like chanting and screaming.
They're screaming, yeah.
Yeah, they all have these like makeshift weapons, and they've all kind of done like self-piercing on their faces.
So
Yeah,
these are
man.
the miners and I guess the prison guards. And when you get possessed by a ghost of Mars, you become like a tribalistic person who mutilates their face, and you can't talk, you can't speak, you just scream, and you just want to kill things. I guess it's almost like an offensive portrayal.
I was just
of-
about to say, kind of a racist stereotype
Yeah, of
when
like-
you consider its Western origin.
Yeah,
Oh,
I know
that's
it's
true,
Mars,
yeah.
but it's like it's like an indigenous people,
Right.
And it's like gross how they portray it.
But someone told me when we were talking about this that he remembered a line where they talk about that, like, the ghosts were also an invading species
Oh, I can't remember.
that killed the indigenous people, but it was probably during the second trip out sequence, and I was just laughing at the, like, World of Warcraft style cutscenes.
Oh yeah, I was. Well, as soon as Jason Statham kind of comes upon this sort of army, or this group of people, I should say, and you see them that they're all chanting towards this one leader. His name in the credits is Big Daddy Mars.
So, like, who was Big Daddy before he got possessed by the ghosts of Mars?
I
Was he
have
just
no
like
idea.
a muscle man?
He's a
Was
wrestler.
he-
Well, he doesn't even look like he's human. He just has,
exactly.
these facial structures that are kind of like Klingon-esque or something like that. And he's wearing this ridiculous outfit. Yeah, but
And
it's like,
also, he's how does he sound, Colin?
well,
He sounds like a baby.
This was
That's
the
what he
funniest
sounds
thing
like.
because he's doing his Martian dialect or whatever the hell it is, but it's just like,
Yeah, it's like da da boo boo. It honestly feels like the actor went, oh, I can figure this all out, Mr. Carpenter. I can do, a different voice or intonation based on this. And John Carpenter, like, took a drag from his doobie, looked up from his PlayStation and went, yeah, whatever. Just, we'll dub it in post.
Didn't I read that like the prosthetics made it hard for him to talk or something?
yeah,
So-
his prosthetic teeth, because when you're taken
Right.
over by a ghost of Mars, your teeth all of a sudden become really pointy.
Choppers.
like a vampire.
Yeah, they look like Christopher Walken in Sleepy Hollow. He's like filed all his teeth down, but apparently the prosthetic teeth made it so he couldn't say anything other than sounds.
Wait, you know what? I lied when you said vampire. John Carpenter's vampires came between Escape from L.A. and Ghost of Mars.
Oh, okay.
And that
you
also
go.
triggered in my mind, John Carpenter's vampires is also filled with fades and dissolves.
That's right.
I've never
So
seen
it's
that.
definitely something that he was, going towards stylistically.
Yeah, it's like that was him trying to evolve out of the 80s. Yeah. And then he was like, yeah, what are the kids like these days?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I didn't get the like John Carpenter feel from this movie, and maybe it's because I haven't seen many of his 90s stuff. I'm used to his more 80s style. And if you didn't tell me that he directed this, I probably wouldn't know.
I mean, it feels almost like a greatest hits of John Carpenter.
Yeah,
like
it
has
does.
The Assault on Precinct 13. It has the thing of like who's possessed by a ghost of Mars.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everything in a blender, pretty much.
It has like Prince of Darkness and the POV shots, which are like, I guess, shot on like mini DV. It looks like that when the person gets killed, that's possessed by a ghost. The
Yeah.
ghost goes in the air and it's like looking around for who else it'll take over.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, because they kind of set up that you really don't want to kill these things, because as soon as you do, the body dies, but then the spirit of the Martians sort of just flies out in the
They should
air.
have just locked them up or something.
Yeah, and at one point they even say the ghosts are carried along by the wind.
Yeah, I was confused by that because I was like, does that mean the ghost, when it like floats in the air, it's like, whoa! Could they use fans at one point to like fan away the ghost?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So if you just like killed everybody in a tornado or something,
And they just
Yeah, they
fly
want to create
away.
like a tornado.
but they kind of establish when the person's killed in prison that these ghosts can fly around no problem on their own sort of will. It doesn't seem like
I think they don't like doors because like at one point a door gets closed and the ghost is like, "Rrrr."
it's like, so wait, are they physical? It's like, I don't
Yeah.
get it.
Well,
Well, they look physical because in a flashback you see like a big red wave coming down
Yeah.
and possessing the miners.
Yeah, it's like a dust cloud or something.
but then later it's like invisible to me.
Yeah, so like, what if the wind just stopped? Does that mean they
Maybe they did shoot it like a big red fart, just like floating around.
A fart cloud.
Yep.
you just fart them away?
Yeah, because the ghosts go out through the butt and in through the butt.
Well, it's around this time that our hero, Natasha Henstridge, actually gets possessed by...
You're going for it, April.
It's so
Wait, we
hard.
skipped a big part, and that was my man, Ice Cube.
Oh yeah, so they
Yeah.
discover Ice Cube and he's locked up. Well, first of all, they come into the sort of jail area and there's just dead bodies everywhere. Everyone's been slaughtered. And everyone just assumes that it's, Desolation Williams. But
How could it be him, though? He's locked up in a cell.
locked up in a cell, but then, as you'll see in his flashback, he explains that everybody was all dead by the time he got there.
Right.
There's actually a really funny flashback thing, which is he goes, I was just walking in, and everybody was dead. And then you see he's like actually going to rob them,
Yeah.
and then he walks in and everybody's dead. I mean, I don't know what like John Carpenter's doing in this movie. Like Ice Cube gets no introduction. It just cuts to him kind of like sitting there sleepily in his cell.
Well, I guess it makes sense if it was supposed to be a Snake Plissken movie, you wouldn't really need one.
But
But
would like pull the camera back or something like that to introduce him. Nah, he's just sitting there. We just cut to him.
yeah, and it's like he's on a monitor too. You see the back of his head or something.
And so Ice Cube, he gets out, he helps them because, some of the people they found, they got possessed, which leads to like some martial arts fights that they have.
Yeah.
And is this around the time we meet his boys, right? Uno, dos, tres?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that their names?
Yeah.
Yes.
Uno's his brother.
And we think they're good guys, and they're not good guys. It doesn't really matter that much, but it's a fun aside that you get to introduce 3 more characters.
Yeah, so they like spring him, and then they take control. They get all the guns, and then I guess like everybody realizes they have to work together.
Well, there's the greatest switcheroo of all, which they go, please show us where Desolation Jones is. And they bring him to a cell.
Yeah.
The brothers go in, they're like, Desolation! And then Natasha and Jason Statham just step back and close the cell. The old switcheroo.
They tricked him. They're real smart.
They're like, no! So what was your favorite part, Colin, as we're going through this plot here?
Well, I was going to say the soundtrack, and John.
Robbing it from April.
Well, she had her thing to
I
say.
said the drug trip, but I have something
Okay.
to say about the soundtrack. But Colin, you go first.
Well, I know April was very annoyed because we kept saying it was like new metal and this and that, and Marilyn Manson.
It's not new metal. I was wrong.
It isn't really, but I remembered it that way as well. And she was giving me grief through the entire movie. Like, this is not new metal. And
she like puts on a Mudhoney album. She's like, yeah, this is new metal.
Well, let me just preface.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me just preface by saying we recently watched the new metal movie of the world, Queen of the Damned. And I've seen that.
Could have done that.
I've seen it a lot growing up. I loved it, and I love new metal. I've been listening to the soundtrack for years, but we rewatched it. Well, Colin had never seen it because another podcast was doing it. We Hate Movies, and I thought I wanted to revisit it. It's a really bad movie, you guys.
Oh my god, it's terrible.
I've never seen Queen of the Damned.
Oh, it's so funny.
Watch it, but new metal is actually in the plot. Because Lestat becomes a rock star because the sounds of new metal wakes him up from his 100-year sleep.
Because he hates it? He's like, oh, it's so bad.
He loves it.
He decides he wants to be the next Jonathan Davis of Korn.
And then he immediately joins a band. He takes over as the lead singer for this
and
band.
becomes a sensation.
Yeah.
Wow.
But so
All
this
right, we'll save that for a Patreon episode in the future.
Yeah,
or maybe
for
a
sure.
regular episode.
Absolutely. But yeah, so this soundtrack of Queen of the Damned is, everybody. Korn,
we didn't-
Slipknot.
Well, we didn't find out until the very end. Oh, you're talking about...
I'm talking about Queen of the Damned.
Okay,
But anyway, I'm
continue.
just saying there's actual bands from the era doing songs in that movie. Cut to Ghosts of Mars, and it's just John Carpenter the whole time. So I was like, what the hell? You guys missold this.
Yeah, but it's John Carpenter.
Not really, as Colin's about to say.
Yeah, so we were... This is one of the first movies that I actually watched the end credits all the way through, and I was just sitting on the couch, like banging my head and looking at April, like, yeah.
Of all time, you're like, we're staying all the way to the end.
And I wasn't waiting for like a Marvel stinger or anything. Mm-hmm. And at the very end, it's like music by John Carpenter, and then he had, was it Anthrax?
Anthrax and Buckethead.
And Buckethead. So he brought all these legit bands, and April
play
was
with him.
She was kind of pissed off because she's like, this is just John Carpenter trying to, do metal.
Although trying to do new metal, although I still liked it because
Yeah.
I like John Carpenter's music.
Yeah, it's very...
Well, you guys have seen that internet video, right? That was on the DVD of him like rocking out with Anthrax and
No.
Buckethead in the recording studio. It's very funny because it looks like the only reason he brought them in was so like John Carpenter could jam with them.
Yeah, well, why not, man? He's living his best life.
Well, we were like singing the soundtrack like after the movie, the whole movie. It all sounds. It's just this like it's very like dirty sounding guitars.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so good.
Yeah, it sounds very John Carpenter-ish.
It totally.
From like, because those guitars don't actually kick in until the second half of the movie.
Yeah, when everything's going ape shit.
Well, if you go back to like In the Mouth of Madness, which is like early to mid 90s, I absolutely love the opening song to that. And that's him being inspired by Metallica.
That's right.
And so just kind of flash forward a few years. This is that, only he's trying to be a little more relevant, so he's trying to be more into the new metal style, but not quite.
No,
Can I somehow put dissolves into the music? How did that work?
You sure can.
Why not?
Yeah, but so the person listening understands what's happening.
Yeah.
So at this point, the movie essentially turns into them going to see if the train is there, and then going back out again, then coming back. A lot of back and forth.
Yeah, they they establish a time limit earlier on. The train will be back in like 12 hours or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they couldn't just wait. Why couldn't they just wait?
And where does it go?
Yeah. It goes, I guess it's a big loop around Mars, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, literally, they were just there to go to the jail to pick up ice cubes. So how long could that take that this train has to continue on? Was it bringing supplies or something to the rest
Maybe
of Mars?
they said it at one point. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was just bringing things to the other colonies or something like that.
And so at one point they figure out like, we're going to work together. We're going to put all these weapons. We're going to go out. And they just kind of like run to the train. The train's not there. And then Ice Cube is like, what's plan B? He's like, I'll show you. And they just start blowing people away.
Yeah, he's got 2 machine guns, one in each hand, and he's just shooting them out sideways. He doesn't care. And the
big trailer moment.
They have a really, really good kill in this. I think it's Clea Duvall.
Well, I think that's later.
Oh, that's
but
later. Sorry.
One guy, he gets his arm chopped off because the bad guys have these like metal discs.
They're just like buzzsaw
Yes.
blades.
Yeah.
Circular blades.
Wait. I have to stop you guys for a second because I just saw that one of the old guys that's in the cell was played by Doug McGrath, who is a Canadian legend who stars in Going Down the Road.
Oh, he was probably in the cell with Joanna Cassidy.
Yeah, exactly. And he's also in Black Christmas and Porky's.
Oh.
Canadian
Did they
legend.
shoot this movie in
apparently.
Vancouver? They must have.
I think
You know what?
no, it was like India or something, right?
No, it was... God, where was it?
It said in the credits when we forget.
I think it's like somewhere in Eastern Europe, maybe Prague. But
Yeah,
then
I see here New Mexico. That's probably where they
New
shot
Mexico,
it.
yeah.
But then I thought they had like a Quebec credit at the very end or something like that.
They had an Ontario credit, so the effects were probably done here. I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe they got tax credits by getting good old Doug McGrath to show up.
Yeah. What?
I mean,
Hey, Natasha Henstridge is Canadian.
Oh,
that's right.
okay.
Canadian legend.
You know, the action scenes in this movie, not so hot, especially when they're firing guns. It's just like firing, and then it cuts to somebody like flying through the air in an explosion.
yeah, it's all very random.
It has a cheapness to it that's not great. And we mentioned the effects are pretty bad. I thought that this was like a special effects heavy movie. There's really not
really.
that much.
No.
But we were gonna say like the guy gets his hand chopped off, and you're like, whoa! And then all of a sudden,
It's followed up by a
his
beheading.
head gets chopped off.
and it's a good kill. We both
yeah,
just
it
went.
made me laugh. I mean, there's some pretty wonky decapitation effects that they do try to mix practical elements in. It looks like the blood spurting out of their neck is
Yeah,
practical
definitely.
on set.
Yeah,
I was glad they didn't go digital. And I think hopefully like Escape from LA kind of like taught him that. Other than the balloon scene, I don't think there's anything really egregious.
That's right. April, I have to ask you this question. Did you ever go for a look like Big Daddy Mars in this movie?
you mean like a goth makeup look?
Yeah, like Marilyn Manson.
Not quite that far. I did used to like dress all in black and had like black eyeliner and black eyeshadow and black lipstick.
And you were like, goo goo gaga.
I should go.
yeah.
That's how she wakes up every morning.
Oh man, I
She
feel
has
bad
to get
for
the
that
ghost
actor.
out of her.
Well, there was a really funny story about this. It was actually kind of sad, and I told you on Twitter, Justin. But years ago,
Oh, yeah.
I think it was after I watched Ghosts of Mars for the first time. I was kind of reading up about the Comic-Con. I think it was 2001 before it came out, and there was a lineup. I think it was the one. It was like a Comic-Con. It was one
Like
of the big.
Jet Li's the one.
Yeah, it was
Whoa,
one of the
that's a
big.
Statham double.
It was one of the big like Comic-Con halls. So they had Ghosts of Mars was on the panel, and followed up by Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man movie. So and I read the story, and it was really, really sad to read. And then they had this picture. So Joanna Cassidy came out on stage to do the Q&A, and the actor who played Big Daddy Mars came out, but he was in full makeup and costume. And they showed the trailer for Ghosts of Mars right before they came out, and apparently everybody was booing because all they wanted to see was Sam Raimi and the Spider-Man presentation. And John Carpenter was late, so he didn't show up. So it was just Joanna Cassidy and then this Big Daddy Mars on stage in front of this rabid booing audience.
Oh.
And eventually John Carpenter showed up. And he said, "Hey, who wants to see the trailer again?" And everybody was like, "Boo, we want to see Spider-Man." And then everybody was just booing him and chanting, and they just started chanting Spider-Man, and basically they just chased them off stage until Sam Raimi came out. So it was very, very sad.
Oh, poor Big Daddy Mars. I mean,
know,
he's probably just some stuntman, right?
He is, yeah. I know he doubled for Ben Affleck in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Oh, still
He's
working.
been in a lot of other things, yeah. But
But he always looks like Big Daddy Mars. That's actually what he looks like day to day.
That's his base costume before he puts on anything else.
Oh yeah, he's super busy. He is like in the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
He did Solo, The Mandalorian, so
Yeah, it was really funny though, but it's just this picture of Joanna Cassidy and this guy sitting at like a picnic table on stage covered in like a black tarp. And he looked so depressed, and they both look really sad. It was like, oh.
Well, hopefully he recovered from that horrible embarrassment.
yeah, thankfully Ghost of Mars came out. It was a massive hit critically and commercially.
Pretty much
and he
made his
never had
career.
any issues.
I read a quote from Ice Cube that said he said it was the worst movie he did, and he said that he was really let down by the special effects. And I was like, that's what you were let down by?
Whoa. Triple X 2, what is it? Not State of the Nation, it's something like that.
State of the Union.
State of the Union, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think, like, you know, other than what I said, the balloon scene, there's nothing really egregious that stands out.
No,
Like,
not really.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he was talking about.
Oh,
really.
wait, we forgot that when Natasha gets possessed by one of the ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
And she takes her drugs and she's like, not today. And she has this really unrendered dream sequence of the aliens.
Oh, yeah.
It's cool though. I mean, it kind of looks like a new metal music video, but
Yeah.
it's all right.
It kind of flashes back to, so we see that, I guess, the ghosts are actually this previous inhabitants of Mars, I guess. And they show this big army. It's basically like Big Daddy Mars in his previous form. But they're kind of like these like bug creatures.
Yeah.
And I thought they were CG, and so did April. And then at the very end, because the effects person was Greg Nicotero, K&B Effects did the stuff for this movie, and it said like
Puppeteer.
Mars puppeteer, Mars alien puppeteer.
There is no way those were puppets. I think we got a Spawn instance here.
It was hard to tell though because it was like a crossfade. So
Yeah.
it was. I thought it was CG, but then we were like, oh, I guess it was a puppet. But maybe it was both.
It was very blurry and soft, so you know it may well could have been CGI that they just did afterwards and just didn't tell anybody.
And so after she takes the drug and she gets the alien out of her system,
Which,
they're
by the
never
way, she barfs the alien up.
which is weird that I thought the film was going to go in the direction of like everybody take drugs.
Exactly.
That way the aliens can't get us, but it never really comes up again.
No.
That makes no sense. Like, we know how to defeat or at least get them out of people. Like, give everybody these pills.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she only had a few to go around and she wanted them.
Oh, I forgot
Maybe
to
she
mention
was just,
another.
real selfish.
There was another CG when she gets high. The locket that she has kind of morphs and becomes 3-dimensional. That actually looked pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually did. It was like this kind of
enter
like
the void.
it's kind of this cool like engraving on it becomes like 3D and starts like twisting around. It looks pretty cool.
So finally, they do their big plan, which is to run to the train again.
Again.
Yep.
Yep. And they get on the train, and then Hendridge is like, oh, we got to go back because I have to blow up the nuclear power plant.
Yeah, so they've already left.
They made it out. They
made it
free.
out. They're saved. And then she's like, I got a plan. Stop the train as soon as you get out of town. So what? Yeah, she wants to go back.
And going back kills everybody except
Yeah,
for her
and-
and Ice Cube.
What's weird about it is, like, why do you think that setting off a nuclear explosion will kill these ghosts?
Yeah, like you don't want to kill. They've already established again and again that you don't
Yeah.
want to kill these bodies because then the ghosts will just be roaming free.
Yeah, and go into
Yeah.
other people.
So she
Maybe
literally.
Natasha, she just wants to take over Mars, and this is her plan.
Hey, that's a possibility.
They should have got a big vacuum.
Yeah, they should have.
Yeah.
Or just like really strong fans.
Or
and
a
they just,
Floby. It'll suck them up.
Natasha and Ice Cube have a conversation where she's like, tell me how you are you. And he's like, I'll only tell you when there's a rising tide. This
Yeah.
is important because it comes back later in the movie.
Yep.
But then there's like a final action scene that seems very poorly planned out where like they get off at the nuclear power plant, which is like 10 feet away from where all the Martians are.
Yeah, it seems like the train has been going for like 15, 20 minutes.
And the Martians just see them instantly, start attacking them. Everybody dies.
Yeah.
You know what? I may have looked away, but I don't remember seeing Jason Statham die. So how does he get it?
They just surround him and just like, he's like, oh, you don't really see any graphic.
That's such a unceremonious end for his character.
I know why. It's because Jason Statham was like, oi, maybe I'll be back for the sequel.
Yeah.
No.
Well, also earlier in the movie, so he's aggressively hitting on Natasha the entire movie. He's like calling her a lesbian and like there's like gay slurs. And she's like, I'm not going to sleep with you. You're disgusting. And then at one point he's like, come into this room, and she does, and he's
I
like,
have something to show you.
yeah, I have something to show you. And he's like, let's have sex because there's no other time. And she fucking kisses him and they're about to have sex. They get interrupted, but I can't believe she relented. She has no reason to want to sleep with this jerk.
Well, she's just like, yeah, okay, whatever, sure.
Maybe she was planning on like biting his penis off or something like that.
Yeah, that's
Emasculate him.
It's the head canon. Head canon, get it?
We got to get the Ghost of Mars novelization. I'm sure it expands on all of this, and you know there's a novelization out there.
Yeah, by Alan Dean Foster.
It's probably.
I hope so.
I could see it being like a graphic
Mark of
novel.
quality.
Yeah, actually, because John Carpenter is writing comic books now,
Writing comic books,
quote unquote,
is,
just like Stan Lee,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, you can use my name. Just put the check right in my hand.
Put it in the check slot that says checks for $1 million only.
Whoa, to write a comic book? Man, John Carpenter's got a good deal. That gets basketball bets don't pay for themselves. What is John Carpenter doing right now, guys? He's under quarantine. He can't watch basketball.
Oh my
This is
God.
the worst nightmare of them all.
Yeah, he can just sit on his couch playing video games and smoking weed.
He can still make music on his cool keyboard.
Hey man, that guy is living the life of a king. This is amazing.
Right. He gets to go like play concerts where he just like sits at the keyboard. Sometimes he's playing, sometimes he's not.
Yeah,
he like spins around, points to the crowd. They're like, "Woo!"
Yeah, he kind of like they prop him up like some animatronic puppet or something.
Yeah,
you can just
they
see
could have like John Carpenter lookalikes, and we just don't know.
It's true.
Yeah, you
We're
never
so
know.
far away. I mean, we didn't see him in a huge concert hall, but
Yeah.
we were pretty far away.
Yeah, we were kind of at the back, but we were high up. We could see. But yeah, they have him sort of doing just the one keyboard, one finger kind of keyboard notes and stuff,
Yeah.
and everybody else is kind of carrying the weight. But whatever.
So the movie ends with a fight on a train. Big Daddy Mars gets a pretty lame comeuppance. He just explodes in a fake
Yeah.
CG explosion.
After screaming his tagline,
Yeah, that's right. And then we cut back to the, I guess, framing story of her talking to this boring committee.
yeah,
Well, like her and Ice Cube have a little moment on the train where they're the only two survivors and they kind of made a connection. They respect each other and she's like, I'm going to bring you back, but I promise I'll vouch for you. There's no way they're going to put you in jail. And then he handcuffs her and it's like, I'm not going back there. What are you crazy? So,
Yeah, he
and
kinda
then
takes off.
Yeah.
And then he activates his rocket boots and flies off into space.
flies back to his home planet.
presumably, yes.
Yeah. And then after this whole speech, the people on the board are like, what are we going to say? That there was Ghost on Mars? Wait, I forgot something. That there's an explosion in this movie. Like they set off the nuclear blast and it cuts to like space.
Yeah.
And it looks like 1/8 of the planet has been nuked.
I
like,
saw that.
Everybody would be dead on this planet.
Everybody. Just the fallout alone.
Yeah, it's like the beginning of Armageddon.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, not the classic Michael Bay film.
No, the actual Armageddon.
Yeah. So, and then it cuts to our hero, Natasha, sleeping,
Of course.
I guess. And she gets up and she's wearing, sleeping stuff, underwear, shirt. One last look, I guess, for the guys in the audience.
Yeah,
Was
she's
that like a tribute to Alien or something?
yeah,
Maybe.
probably. Yeah, that's what I
And-
thought of, actually, because she's dressed kind of like Ripley at the end of
She's
Alien.
wearing like a tank top and underwear.
And then, oh no, it seems like the ghosts have taken over wherever she is. Oh, I think the door kicks open and there's Ice Cube.
And he's got
Yeah.
this amazing, like, silver-plated Mac 10 gun.
And he goes, "Tide's up." And he throws her the gun.
And then it ends with them just like shooting at nothing, and it ends, and it ended like a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
So I have to point out, this whole last part of the movie was in every trailer.
Oh man.
It's like, wow, this is what we're getting into. No,
Yeah,
that'll be in the
finally
next
buddy
movie.
cops, and they're going into it, and it's like when you watch it in the theater, I bet everyone deflated when they saw that in theaters.
Yeah.
Like, do you think it was supposed to be a sequel setup? Because John
Yes.
Carpenter's movies, aside from Escape from LA, don't really have sequels. And
Halloween?
Or do you think the studio was like, everything has to have a sequel setup now?
It could go either way. I mean, it's, it was like a good way to end it, I guess, but, leave it open-ended.
Yeah.
It is weird that they walk off screen and you just hear gunfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't see
cheaper.
what they're shooting at.
But then
It's
they
like,
do.
hey, can I see the fun stuff going on?
Yeah, really.
They do show a high angle of the Martian city, the main city, and then you see the big smoke plume barreling towards it. So basically, her deciding to nuke all these people in the mining camp was the cause of this apocalypse on Mars that's about to happen.
You could assume that, yes.
That was
Yes.
the dumbest decision she could have made.
She sucks.
She was responsible for this city getting destroyed.
All right. Well, yeah, that's Ghost of Mars. I don't remember what April said was her favorite thing. I think the drug trip out.
I said
Yeah.
the drug trip outs, yeah.
Okay. We'll give you that one. So, what do we have left to watch John Carpenter wise, Ghost of Mars wise?
like vampires.
What other Ghost of Mars media can we consume?
I want to see vampires. It's on Netflix.
Ugh. Okay. We can do vampires.
Well, I'm going to watch it regardless. But yeah. Ghost of Mars, by the way, on iTunes. You can buy it for $5 if you want.
Yeah, it's $4.99. By the way, in the end credits, which I watched in their entirety, Jeff Imada was the stunt coordinator.
Jeff Imada again.
Yeah.
So was the director of Atomic Blonde and John Wick, David Leitch. He was one of the stuntmen on that.
Whoa, cool.
And Al Young was one of the stuntmen too.
I guess Jeff Imada and Al Young are just like a team.
Yeah.
They just go everywhere together.
Yeah, as soon as I saw Jeff Imada, I was looking for Al Young's name. I'm like, oh, there he is.
Well, I read on the IMDb a quote from John Carpenter, which was that this movie was misunderstood and people didn't really get that it wasn't supposed to be serious. He's like, this is the most ridiculous movie I've made. How could anyone possibly take it seriously? And the failing of this movie is that it didn't get the tone quite right because it has all of the ingredients for a schlock space action movie, but it doesn't come together quite right. And I think that that's mostly a problem with the script and the casting.
Yeah.
Do you think that John Carpenter is sitting at home going, I should have put more dissolve?
Yeah. Well, that's certainly a funny aspect to it, but people seem to think that this was supposed to be serious and therefore it just came off as lame.
Yeah, but like reading his quote, he's sort of describing the movie as this sort of lighthearted 80s, over the top action movie. And it's like, I'm not seeing that in the actual movie. Like, I don't think he went far enough if that was his intention.
There should have been more over the top violence, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, there should have been that, and there should have been like, I don't know, like a wrestler, like a Roddy Piper as one of the people.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But yeah, I think that Natasha really brings down this movie.
Yeah, I think
Ooh, ouch.
she's very, very flat. But I was sort of reading that she had a rough time on this movie because she had done 2 other movies previously back to back. So she was just really wiped.
I think she was pregnant as well.
Whoa.
not
I know
so
that she was
sure.
hospitalized for like exhaustion because this was a bit heavy action movie.
Yeah, they had to shut the shoot down for like 2 weeks or something while she recovered. But her boyfriend is actually in the movie. He's the 4th guy on the team.
Yeah, the one that nobody cares about.
Exactly.
He doesn't even have very many lines.
He's not even on the poster.
No, but he gets beheaded very well. With a nice.
He's the guy who loses his arm, who's like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she wasn't supposed to be in the movie. It was going to be Courtney Love, I had read.
You know what? That would have made it feel more comedic.
Exactly.
think so, yeah.
I think it would have worked better.
But then, like, Courtney Love had to bow out because her boyfriend ran over her foot with a car. And then
I hope that's true.
Yeah. And then Jason Statham was supposed to play Ice Cube's role. And then he got booted because they wanted Ice Cube's star power.
Which he has, but I don't know if I would call it star power.
Yeah, he's kind of just...
He's a music star.
He doesn't bring a lot to the role. He's very kind of one note, but...
Again, if it was like Roddy Piper playing himself,
yeah.
it's like Roddy Piper. He got to Mars, he went crazy.
Yeah, or if it
Yeah.
was like modern, present day Jason Statham. I think
yeah.
he could have brought a lot of like character to that role.
I didn't
think.
hate Statham's performance.
No.
He was just playing like a gross, skeezy character. But I think that Ice Cube does have tons of charisma, but it just was dialed back a little too much in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a little muted.
Yeah.
Tides up.
Yeah, he's got all the good one-liners.
Yeah, all the good.
So, anything else about Ghosts of Mars?
You didn't like Big Daddy Mars's one-liners?
No. Gaga.
I think we've talked about Ghosts of Mars enough.
All right.
And then we can finally put it to bed.
Colin's like, oh man. He
Man.
like throws a whole notebook in the fireplace.
Now I'm going to go back and going to buy this movie for $4.99.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
you
right.
can, you can tell we're John Carpenter fans. So I would definitely recommend seeing this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think it quite deserves the reputation that it has.
Oh yeah, it has a terrible reputation.
Yeah, and for me too. I mean, I sort of misremembered it. I just remember being very dull, and I wasn't really paying attention to it. But I actually kind of enjoyed it this time.
And if you want to email the podcast, we're at no such thing as a bad movie at gmail.com. Our Twitter is no such thing pod. And you want to support us on Patreon, we're patreon.com/no such thing as a bad movie. At the $5 level, you get a bonus episode every other week. And did we mention yet that that the next one's Veronica? I think we did.
Yeah, we did. We did at the beginning.
Oof.
Wait, so you guys talked about it for 20 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a struggle to drag it out to
Just
20
20
minutes. There's nothing to talk about in that movie.
Yeah. So look forward to that. It's coming out soon.
Yeah, the hard sell.
Yeah, pay us money to listen to it.
Well, I don't have the list with me, but I just wanted to thank. We've had a few patrons join over the past week, and I know it's been hard for everybody stuck at home. And I've been listening to tons of podcasts. That's something that I absolutely love to do, and now I finally have time to listen to all of the ones that have been in my queue. So I just wanted to thank all the listeners and people that have been recommending stuff, and all our supporters on Patreon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you want to tweet at me, I'm at April Atmansky.
You can follow me on Twitter at DeclouJ, DECLOUX and the letter J. I'm also on Letterboxd under Justin Declou, and I do a podcast every week called The Important Cinema Club.
Ooh. And you can follow me on Twitter at Sergeant Zima, SGTZIMA.
And I would also recommend The Important Cinema Club. I just caught up on like 6 episodes that I had in my queue, and it's a good show if you want like the humor of this show, but you want to learn about movies. It's edutainment.
Hey, we're informing people about...
I would say that this has been a good lecture on Ghost of Mars.
Yeah, man.
If that's what you want to hear about.
This is the most anybody has talked about the Ghost of Mars.
I also...
The Ghosts of Mars.
The Ghosts of Mars. I also been using Letterboxd more because I'm really bored. So if you want to read my one sentence reviews on Letterboxd, I think it's just at April Atmansky. Okay, so that'll do for this week. I will see everybody soon. Well, I'll hear everybody soon, or they will hear us.
Who am I?
I'm possessed by a ghost of Mars right now. I am April Atmansky.
I'm Justin Declou.
And I'm Colin Cunningham.
And remember, there's no such thing as a bad movie.
There's no such thing as a...
Me and Colin have dueling shtick we're trying to do as the episode ends.
I'll just offset them. I'll cross dissolve.
Oh, yeah!